Again, and we are live from the Tbilisi DICHO Pavilion. Today we are going to have our fourth presentation within the framework of Georgian program for the DICHO project. Today my guest is Mariam Natroshvili, and the name of our presentation is Transitions from the public into the virtual. I'm bringing it up and emphasizing because I believe it's going to be kind of leading point to our conversation with Mariam. Hi Mariam, thanks
Hello.
a lot for being here.
Thank you for
it's
inviting.
so crazy times. Every single visit or just going out of your home can be very risky. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, Mariam. So let me just have some overview of your artistic practice. I remember how you and Detu started making these huge stencils in the public space of Tbilisi. Not only Tbilisi, also you did some projects outside of Tbilisi. And the main medium and key aspect in your practice and creation is a text, words, and then working with public space. So you have this medium of text and then public space as a stage. And used to doing these stencils and using the language of internet, like the internet language. For example, like some phrases from Google search engine, Facebook search engine, and so on. So you tried to kind of put together two completely different things, like this brutal public space and building, which are kind of symbols of our past and our conscious and collective conscience or whatever, and then this completely new reality, like this digitality and the text, we are so integrated to, and we have to look at it and we have to read every single day and every single moment or second. So you try to make this connection between those two aspects. And then I remember, first time when I saw your project in the different medium was when you did this projection for the exhibition at Khidi. You had this projection, projected text. And I thought to myself, okay, that's so cool, you know, it's not text as an object, it's a projection, it's so ephemerical. You just turn the projector on and it appears, it gets appeared, and as soon as you just turn it off, it disappears. But like in the public space, what you used to do, the text and words, we are so kind of solid, you know, something like an object. And like recently, you and Detu started this whole series of animated videos and games. You've been trying to use games as a language, and you kind of you had this twist and change and transitions. That's why I mentioned the word transition, which is so fascinating. How you kind of made this linear narrative. You started from the public space and then kind of you moved into virtual space. But you were still sticking with these two main aspects, public space and words and text. So just, tell us more about these transitions and why virtual space now, why virtual public space and then virtual text in it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this interesting introduction. So then let me start from the beginning, from the very beginning. So me and Detu, we started to work together in 2011, and the very, very first project we made, it was a stencil. It was on the Uznadze Street near CCA, near Center of Contemporary Art Tbilisi. It was a poem of Carlo Gacarava, stenciled and spray painted on the wall. So this was a very, very first thing we did in the street, and we did it together. And then we continued with the texts. It was also like this hunting for the spaces and for the places to write those sentences was also kind of a game for us, because we had a lot of time and we had a car, and we could drive a lot in the city, in Tbilisi and also in other regions, and we were discovering the buildings, different buildings which were empty, which were abandoned, or I don't know, the function was changed. For me, those places were kind of a history of Georgia, and also past and also the present of Georgia. And so when we were finding these places, I had a feeling that there are the stories, invisible stories behind those places, and these places, these stories have to be spoken, have to be told. And words, I love words. I was always fascinated with the words, and I used to write even when in childhood. So we started to write, and it was writing off the page, because I thought that, okay, we can, because when you're writing on a paper, you need to publish it, you need to print it, and it's a whole, I don't know, whole long story.
Yeah.
But we could write these ideas or short poems, even short sentences, in the places where everybody could see or nobody could see, because some places that we have chosen in that times were some, I don't know, in the middle of the nowhere, some abandoned house that maybe only one person per year could pass there, maybe. And about the texts themselves, first, as I told you, it was a poem of Carlo Kajarava, who was a Georgian artist and poem, and the idea was to turn city into the poetry book in a way. But then we decided to write our own texts. But then I was thinking that, you know, everything is more or less written already. So, and when I was scrolling Facebook and when I was surfing on the web, I was discovering different sentences or phrases or words which were made for the social media, was part of the social media, was, I don't know, a hint to press somewhere or something, home, for example, yeah? But if you would take it out of the context, if you could put it in the different space, it would change its meaning absolutely. For example, one of the texts which was Facebook used to have in the search tab, it was search for people, places and things, and we made this text in Lazika, which is a ghost city on the Black Sea coast. Kind of a ghost city. It is. The city which our former president wanted to build a new area, new economical free zone, and he started with artwork. It was a sculpture of Jürgen Meyer. So this is amazing place because there are roads, there is a city hall, there is this sculpture, 2 more buildings and nothing else. So we made the text there. So for me, those texts, it was a material found on internet, and it was kind of this idea of ready-made, of already existing object, in this case text, that you take out of the context, which is not created for literature or for art, and you put it in a different place. And those places which were full of stories and which were stories itself, because all those places were, in a way, books without titles, telling story of economical collapse of 90s in Georgia, telling story of the Soviet past, telling story speaking about the factories that were sold and closed after the collapse of Soviet Union, about the resorts that were also privatized and sold in the 90s and are closed until today. So it's in a way a history. So giving those places titles was like, for me, it was kind of finishing them, like
or maybe also emphasizing the emptiness and the many other problematic aspects, like you mentioned our past and this problem with privatization and so on. So you try to kind of make links with so many different issues.
Talk about these issues, but on the other hand, all those sentences are ready, and all those words were ready for different interpretations, you know, as everything in the world and art, so you write, it was, for example, one of the first texts we made, do you want to continue in the end of the city, on one of the borders of the city. It was empty in that times. Today it's full of new terrible blocks, living blocks. It's near Lisi Lake, and one could read it as a different idea. Someone else would interpret it in different way. So this was a story of the texts, and at some point we stopped to I think in 2015 or 16, we started to work with Georgian words, because a lot of people were asking, why are you writing in English? And because those sentences were in English. So then we started in Georgian. The first Georgian word, one of the first Georgian words was dro, time, which was here near on the billboard, near on this Republic Square. And then we continued with Georgian texts. And at some point, we realized ourselves that we have written more or less everything that we wanted to write. And at some point, the final, in a way, not final, but another step of this writing and I'm sorry, of those words was the Platform for Words, Festival of Words, which we started 1 year ago in 2019 in Art Villa Garikula. It was, the name of the first edition was Frequently Asked Questions, and it's a platform for all kind of text-related formats, and it's a platform where we want to make a place where literature and art meets, where words and visual art meets, and also to find ways for sharing texts in different formats, in new formats. And it was a residency for writers, and it was an exhibition, and the idea was, the topic was time, and the time is poetry and as architecture. All those things that I have mentioned are like really important things for us until today. And time was a topic, and each writer had to write a text about chosen year from 1989 until 2019, and all these texts were online, and we made an art book. We have chosen different sentences and words from media and from newspapers again, short words or sentences that would describe the time. So it's an art book with each sentence about each year. So it was 2019, and for me, time finished. Some kind of time finished, and then and new time started. I didn't think that pandemic would start or something like so global would change, but I don't know, maybe it was intuition, maybe it was need of, for me as an artist and for us as an artist, to start something new. And we thought that, okay, those texts are somehow finished in this publication and in this exhibition that we made, all these words in Garikula in the exhibition space. And then we went for 2 months in January 2020 to residency, and we went in Czech Republic, and when we came back, it was already March, and we came back in totally different reality. And we know what was this reality.
We are still in this reality, unfortunately.
Yeah. It was lockdown, it was empty city, it was panic, it was fear, it was loneliness, emptiness, all these feelings that we were researching also and thinking about and talking about and writing about before, but now it was like a shared reality for everyone. And for me, I always say that it's kind of three realities for me that exist. It's like sleeping reality when you dream, the reality that we have, this reality that we share, and also the virtual reality, like the life in net and life in web and social medias or websites and etc. and etc. So when this reality was broken, after 3 days of panic, we decided that, okay, we need to start something new, and we need to start to continue working, because it was the way to survive, actually. It was because...
survival mode.
Yeah, it was impossible to sit and to watch all this news and etc. And Detu, well, I loved gaming a lot. Maybe in 2000 I was playing a lot myself. Detu is playing even today. And 1 year ago he started to study, to learn this Unity
software,
software for video games, and so that was the moment that we needed his skills at some point, because we were always interested in this, but we never had time to work on this. And so that's how we started. It was a way to survive in a way. That's how we started with experimenting with video games. And first thing that we made in March, because except these texts during our like these 10 years, we were also sometimes organizing exhibitions. We were working on not curating but more organizing, because I don't see myself as a curator. I see myself as an artist and doing different things, telling different stories with different mediums. It can be an exhibition or it can be a text or so on. So first thing we did was an exhibition in a video game. The
exhibition is a game, right?
Yeah, it was a game. Kind of a walking simulation, maybe exhibition simulation, as it's called.
When we mention game, it does not necessarily includes like a very sophisticated game, like a game as a language, game as a medium, and game as a just approach, right? Because we have to, like, this playfulness can be very important, like a point on the table. But like, because we sometimes, for example, again, like back to this pandemic, sometimes I feel like, one day we woke up and we found ourselves in the game, like some kind of game, like a simulated and simulation. So we have to, really, just play around to some point in order to have some healthy, still healthy.
And I think we have this experience, we are like kids of 90s in Georgia, and it was really difficult times. And I'm sure that people in Europe had much harder experience this spring that, I don't know, for my experience, I can say that it was not so hard for me, because here in Georgia from 90s, we have this, I don't know, unconsciously maybe, but we always have this feeling that something will change, something will happen, something will start, or more, something will end.
Exactly.
Because we had childhood during civil war, during wars, and it was like no electricity, economic crisis, and this time gave us some kind of survival kit in our consciousness. We have this survival kit. I think so.
I mean, we have this kind of immune system sometimes. We can say that. Because Georgia, nothing is stable here in our society, in our country, and Georgia is a country of transitions, like a constant, never-ending transitions in terms of our past, in terms of our conscious, in terms of our kind of approaches to the life in general. So we have so many these transitional phases and stages. We have to really kind of integrate into our mind, and we have to be just ready, and we have to take it and accept it as our reality. That's why the word games get so connected at this point, I believe, because to some degree it's a game, and we just play, and it's a way to survive.
Survival game.
Survival game.
We have these skills, I think. And also the thing that me personally I learned from 90s, from my childhood, was this do-it-yourself thing also, and also the idea to find solutions and to find the ways of doing things when you are in the dead end, how to escape from this dead end. So it's a game in a way.
Survival.
So this transition for us to digital space, it was okay. We cannot do anything else. We are sitting at home, and let's speak about the things that we want to speak in this medium and in this way. And also, it's much more Before I mentioned architecture, and it was a huge part of our practice of these texts. It was really the stage for these texts, and it was a story, and the text was a name and title. And also in video games, we started to use architecture a lot. And in video games, we could use text. We could use also the spoken text, the text that I'm reading, and also the architecture, colors, and all this. And you can write anywhere, you know, you can write on the sky, so it's much more comfortable in a way. And this first project, Garigula, the exhibition in Garigula, it was 30 Georgian artists, and you could walk in this building and in the yard of Garigula and explore the paintings and photography of different artists. We try to use only photography and painting. And yeah, maybe I have to mention that we are kind of also now working in two directions. It's again exhibition making in these video games, and also like our works, exhibitions in which we create spaces, and we present works of other artists, and it's and in our works it's our texts, our designed buildings designed by us, words, and etc. And you can also watch a video, or you can video which is a kind of a walkthrough, the ways that we want to show in a way, and or you can play yourself and walk and explore all this space yourself. And so all this poetry in a way, words, architecture became kind of a metaphors in these video games, became like stories with colors and with sound and with everything to talk about different topics and different issues that we want to speak about. For example, now I think we're sitting in the video which is without voice here. It's Under the Open Sky, and it's a short video, like 10 minutes video, about not having home and about homelessness in Georgia, because thousands of people have lost their homes as refugees from the 90s, from Abkhazia and South Ossetia, internally displaced people. Also the people who live here, but because the crazy policy of banks, a lot of people lost their homes. So this video is kind of a, I don't know, in a way, poetic reflection, if we can say so, of this issue and of this topic. So, yeah.
I have two questions. I mean, from my observations and kind of impressions on your video games or just videos where you use game as a language and as a medium, I feel like you still there are some hierarchy, right? Physical and digital. But the dominant medium and dominant condition in your videos is still physical space. So you try to simulate physical space into something virtual. So there is this very strong physicality. Of course, it is digital and it is simulated and it is modeled in a certain way. For example, you use gaming soft or whatever, but physicality is still so dominant. For example, you take some buildings and integrate into the videos, and then again you have this sense of public space and like this emptiness and the words again. So this physical dimension is still your environment. So my question is, if it's kind of intentionally done, and if you are planning to do something which is only only kind of focused on digital environment and there is nothing physical. And sometimes, for example, talking about web exhibitions, it can be a good example. Sometimes you just use this web exhibition because it's easy. We live in times of pandemic, so we can do like it's very limited. Doing physical exhibitions and doing web exhibition, it's a way just to keep yourself busy and keep yourself like moving forward. But it can be just some additional part of your project. I mean, you just use web space in order to have a space to exhibit something. But on the other hand, you can do web exhibition where you don't want to do any simulation of physical space or physical environment. You just want to reflect on the space itself. So in your case, like, what are connection between those things, and if you are planning to do something only for like a digital medium?
So
maybe it's just my opinion, but this is the way I see.
For now, we're working with. For now, we need this physicality in a way.
Even the words in your videos are like an object, you know, this architectural object. For example, you just walk through the words and you have these gigantic words in your videos, which are, I mean, they are really beautiful, and I really love them, how you just can walk through them. And letters, like Georgian letters, are like separate buildings, and you have to just, I don't know, look up and look down and like just walk around. And words are still very crucial in your videos, but they are physical. I mean, they are digital, but you feel that you are walking around some physical objects.
So it was believed in old times. It was believed that every temple had a virtual copy in a heaven. So maybe today, this heaven is this digital space where, for me, the buildings and the words. Which was like all those copies were the sacral, the initial initial images and initial content, or how to say, of these ideas, and then it could be created on the earth. For example, temple in Jerusalem, and etc. So we're working a lot with mythology, and I'm interested in mythology a lot, and I'm now more interested in contemporary mythology, but we are kind of trying always, not trying, but actually we're influenced by this. It's also not really planned in a way. We are more influenced, and then we find a lot of similarities in these old ideas, in these archetypal ideas. We find a lot of similarities with the digital world. For example, when I first discovered that how coding is made, and Georgian word for fate, for destiny is bedisera, it's like writing the written fate, and when you code, you just write and things happen. It was like, wow. I was like, okay, now I understand how things happen. So for me it's interesting to find these similarities between mythology, between this forgotten knowledge, between unconsciousness, collective unconsciousness, and these ideas, and between the digital space. And physicality, I don't know. Yeah, it's like this. You know, we're trying to use some all these buildings. For example, we have a lot of abandoned carcass, or how it's in English, I don't know, like the building which is not finished yet. And this is also, if I go back, it's kind of a psychoanalysis, you know. If we go back to childhood and 90s, one of the first memories that I have, it is this gray skeleton of the building which was not finished. It was in front of my house, and
we have plenty of this kind of buildings.
And it's a symbol in a way of something not finished, something that has stopped, something that could not end. And this, I was always, and we were always interested in people, and also in the cities, in Tbilisi especially, and also in the city which is left without people, or the places which are left without people, the non-places or junk places, or heterotopias which are empty and abandoned, and where you can read the traces of the people being here, but something has ended, something finished, and something new started, maybe, or maybe didn't. So we're trying to find those places that don't exist. Sometimes they exist and in our memory, and we try to recreate it. But sometimes they don't exist, but they exist as a symbol, as a metaphor, or as an archetype. And then we try to make it in to make a copy, heavenly copy
of our,
of
so it
this.
I mean, your videos kind of project and simulate our fears, loneliness, emptiness, problem of our public space, because it is always there with your videos and with your works, like the problem of public space. Do we have public space at all, and what kind of public space we have? And we have like a space itself, we have plenty, but there is no function in it, and that's our problem. That's the main problem with our public space. Not like we don't have any space, we have plenty, but there's no function. It's completely abandoned or privatized, and no one is gonna give any function to it, and people just wait for some good times to make like a bunch of money out of it, and we can just use it. It belongs to someone else, and I always see this problem. This is also kind of my opinion. And
I'm
like
happy to hear that.
you always narrate your games. There are always some text written by you, and then you just read it, and it has they always have some narration. And the way you watch it, I feel like there is some point of view, like the camera, for example, and sometimes I feel that it's your point of view, and I just follow you, like when I watch movies, we just follow the point of view of camera, right? So how's this experience with working in this like a virtual environment? Because when you used to doing these stencils in public space, it's so obvious. Like you get prepared, you just prepare all of the things you need, trays, stencils, paper, so on. Then you go and it's like you are on your hunt to do something and to find some space you want to apply and you want to use. But in case of video games and in case of these animated videos, you have absolute freedom, right? You can do whatever you want. You can create, recreate, you can completely, collapse what you just did. So what's this experience for you? How you immerse yourself while working on these videos? Because it's very kind of private experience, I believe, when you work on coding and videos and so on.
Yeah, so it depends, it depends with every work that we make. With exhibitions, it's totally different story.
Sometimes I forget to take it out. It's very tricky.
We live in such time, we have to be covered. With the exhibitions in these video games, it's totally another story. It's absolutely rational and it doesn't have any kind of unconsciousness games or something. But in the case of the works of this that we make, where we don't present the works of others, it's in a way sometimes a stream of unconsciousness, even finding all these images and finding the starting point about what we want to talk about. And sometimes it happens that we make an environment and then I write the text, but sometimes it's vice versa. So we don't have some kind of a strict methodology that, okay, now I write the text and then that creates it and then we shoot the walkthrough. And no, we somehow follow the starting point, and starting point can be an image of a building, for example, image of the text, or it can be a word, for example, and we find this first starting point, the first word, and then we continue with it. So
the word is
in the beginning is a word, as always, So
the world, like from this Bible, the world starts. The world starts with word. I don't know how can we translate exactly.
I don't know English version either.
The first thing was a word from God.
Yep. So, so for me it's like writing a poem. When you write a poem, you don't have a plan in a way that. Now I will. It's kind of unconscious also. So making these videos also are similar to this way, but with the exhibitions, it's a bit different thing because we have a material. For example, now we're working with organization Solve Lab, which is Soviet past, researching Soviet past, the organization which is working on this, and we're making a game, a video game exhibition of victims of Soviet past, and it will be the story that you can, it will be the exhibition that you can explore all these stories and go through all this Siberia and etc. Or all these crazy places. So it can be used as a archive, a way to present some kind of archive too. Yeah.
That sounds very fascinating.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I mean, talking about very sensitive and problematic issues is very hard in our society. We have to find very proper and right mediums. Not like a direct mediums, but maybe indirect mediums and symbolic mediums to really speak up about the problems we have been dealing with for so long time. So the way how, I mean, this idea you came up with these games is so interesting. Like you chose the games and this language and this aesthetic to talk about the things such as the war in Abkhazia, and also you mentioned victims of Soviet Union. So I think that it can be used as a way to emphasize kind of our emotions, not emphasize, but just to rethink and analyze, because one of our problems, I believe, the problems of our society is to go back to our past and rethink and kind of understand what just happened and how we can really release all of these emotions, because it is accumulated somewhere. It's not like a gun, and it's really revolves around us.
Yeah.
So this way you found kind of and you are pursuing is absolutely beautiful for me, and good luck with all your projects.
In the amnesiac society, you know, as we are in Georgia, you need somehow to go back to this memory and to bring this memory.
Yeah. And games can be a very good way. Again, I want to mention this playfulness. You know, sometimes we have to be kind of not really serious in order to talk about our problems, because this seriousness can be kind of very harsh moment to go back to your past and to talk about it. But when you have this like a playfulness and this playful moment, it can be easier to overcome, and we have to really go back to our past and rethink in order to kind of start a new page. Okay, so this digital territories is kind of the meta concept for our program, Georgian program for the DICHO project, and I believe like you and Detu are building your own versions of digital territories. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching and listening to us, and you can check our streaming program. You can check the full program of DICHO and just follow it and stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Bye.